Hello everybody, it's Mike here from the Rewatch project with another episode of Front Row where I look at some of my favourite live musical performances and analyse them, react to them, review them and hopefully provide a little bit of historical context to them. Just a quick reminder to please like and subscribe and also set your subscriptions and alerts. Quick reminder that these videos are just part of a larger channel that I do with my wife Hannah. Namely the podcast, The Rewatch Project with Hannah and Mike, where we review and discuss and riff on some of our favourite pop culture, TV shows, movies, etc. And these front row videos really are supplementary material on there, just where I can kind of kick out the jams and talk about some music stuff as well. So the whole idea, I guess, of these things is that you watch the video first, because I'm going to be talking over them and stopping them and being generally disruptive, and then watch along with me as I place them into a little bit of context. Doing another Bruce Springsteen video today, namely a live performance from River Plate Stadium in Buenos Aires, Argentina, from October 1988 on the final night of the Amnesty International Human Rights Now tour. So I'm going to start playing this right now, and I'll be stopping it frequently just to give a little bit of context about the song itself, the performance, the tour, where Bruce was in his career, and really just giving a sense of the performance itself. So let's get straight into this.
Amigos y amigas,
Sting.
mi fantástico hermano, Bruce Springsteen, and the East Band.
I've got to stop there just to mention that the reason Sting is introducing him is that this is part of the Human Rights Tour. So Bruce did this in 1988. He just completed his Tunnel of Love Express tour, which he'd done in support of the 1987 album Tunnel of Love. Kind of a weird time for Springsteen in many ways. The Tunnel of Love album was, in many ways, I mentioned this on my last video, him somewhat retreating from the global pop success that he had with the extremely well-received Born in the USA album. And on that tour, he really changed a lot of things around. He instead of having Clarence Clements or Nils Lofgren or Little Steven as his main on-stage foil, he had Patti Scialfa, the backing singer who would eventually become his wife. And he'd also really dropped a lot of the kind of war horses from the set list. So, you know, Badlands, Promised Land, Thunder Road, Cadillac Ranch, they were all gone. Born to Run itself was changed into an acoustic performance. I played a little bit of that on the recent episode of this show. So he was really trying to sort of get away from that. And the tour itself, I mean, the name, the Tunnel of Love Express Tour, as that suggests, was a real whistle-stop tour. He just did arena shows as opposed to stadium shows that sold out very quickly. It was a very hot ticket back in 88, back in sort of February through to June 88 when the American leg went on. And then he came to Europe and played stadium shows. It was inevitable with the sort of level of success that he had in Europe. It would have been completely impractical for him to do anything but that. So, and then at the end of that tour, I think the assumption was that he was going to go back to the States at the end of the summer and do more arena shows. And that didn't happen. He decided instead to go on this tour along with u.s.a Indoor, Tracy Chapman, Peter Gabriel and Sting, and a variety of local acts as well, because Springsteen played in a lot of countries that he'd never played in before. I mean, there's a famous story about Clarence Clements for the first time looking out and seeing black faces in the audience. And as an African-American man, that was a really emotional experience for him. And the final night of this tour, that this is the opening number from, would end up being the last E Street Band concert. Springsteen disbanded them, so this was their last show. They reformed a decade later, you know, in what's known as the reunion era. But really, this was the end. This was the end of the classic run that began with Greetings from Asbury Park and ended with Tunnel of Love and the tours as well. You know, Springsteen would really search for a good decade and try different things out. A lot of that gets pinned on Sting, interestingly enough. Sting did apparently say to Springsteen, look, you know, you do limit yourself. You limit your own creative growth by playing with the same musicians for a really long period of time. And Bruce took that to heart, you know. And Bruce had been jamming with Sting during some of these shows. I'll play you a clip. This is from earlier that afternoon at this same show.
I
So this is earlier that same day. So Springsteen and the E Street Band did some things on this short tour that they'd never done before. They played with other bands for starters. I mean, really, Springsteen never had support acts at his shows, never played festivals. They also played to audiences not only in countries that they'd never played before or territories that they'd never played before, but also in front of audiences that weren't theirs necessarily. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff going on there. And a lot of people, as I say, kind of blame, I think rather unfairly, Sting for that. But it is important, I guess, to understand that this was not only a point in Springsteen's career where he was searching, where he was looking to maybe break away from the mold of Bruce, Bruce OOOOCE, that people had that image of, and wanted to perform with other people as well. But also his relationship to the song Born in the USA. So let's get back to the performance of said song. Huge audience at the show. Big outdoor stadium. Audiences in Argentina are known for being verbose. Now, there's a number of reasons why I picked this song. It's not my favourite Bruce Springsteen song. In many ways, it's probably his most popular or well-known song. But I think that Springsteen himself and his audience have a kind of complex relationship with this song. The album, Born in the USA, that came out in 1984, really was the album that propelled him from being, I guess, a very popular, I mean, he played arenas, very popular cult artist into being extremely mainstream. I mean, in 1984, there was Michael Jackson, Madonna, Prince, and Springsteen. They were the big four. And I think what Springsteen represented, his point of difference, if you will, was that of authenticity. I think was a very important thing. But the song obviously, it has a very martial sound to it. And Springsteen himself had transformed from a kind of wiry, skinny kid into a very muscular, Rambo-esque kind of guy. And I think that confused the audience as well. And also America at the time. Ronald Reagan had entered his second term as president of the United States. And him, along with pop culture things like Rambo and the A-Team, where there was a lot of glorification and Hollywoodification or almost Disneyfication of the Vietnam War. We were still a couple of years away from Platoon, the Oliver Stone film, and a couple of years further away from Born on the 4th of July, the Oliver Stone film, which was actually based on a book by Ron Kovac, which influenced this song. This song is a soldier story. This song is a tale of somebody returning to Vietnam. This and the song's B-side, Shut Out the Light, were both songs about that experience, about the experience of being in Vietnam. In the case of the character in Born in the USA, being drafted, and then returning to an America that obviously was at war with itself and had that complex relationship with those young men who'd gone and served. And that's what the song's about. And there's a kind of, I suppose, an irony to Born in the USA. It's not there is pride. There's pride in the song, pride in being an American. But as Springsteen himself said, that isn't necessarily pride in the government of the time, and pride in how, or even pride in the government, obviously, in the late 60s, early 70s when this song occurred, and how the veterans were treated. And the idea is that when the character shouts, "I was born in the USA," it's almost exasperation. It's like, but I was born in the USA. Why am I getting treated like this? That got lost for a number of reasons. I think, again, how martial and anthemic the music is. The image of Springsteen in front of the American flag with his fist raised in the air, felt like it was part of the same cultural landscape as Sylvester Stallone's John Rambo character and Ronald Reagan himself. And I think that came to a head when Ronald Reagan was doing the rounds in, I think it was 1984, when he was in New Jersey, and he actually tried to co-opt Springsteen. He talked about how he felt aligned to Springsteen, which is horrifying, really. Anybody who knows Springsteen's politics, anybody who listened to Nebraska, the album that he put before this, really wouldn't do that. But the song itself, the song led to people not only thinking of Springsteen, particularly in Europe, I think people thinking of Springsteen as being this flag-waving, patriotic kind of meathead, I guess, which wasn't the case. But Springsteen himself has joked that, misinterpretation pays very well, I'll play you a little bit of Springsteen himself talking about what Reagan said, and I'll include a little clip of Reagan here as well. Check this out.
That particular song fell into a certain social context. The country had veered to the right, and the Republicans at the time were basically attempting to co-opt anything American.
America's future rests in 1,000 dreams inside your hearts. It rests in the message of hope in songs of a man so many young Americans admire, New Jersey's own Bruce Springsteen.
Born in U.s.A. was a song of rebellion. When I wrote that song, I said, hey, no, it's like that flag, that's mine, too. And that experience is not the same experience that you're talking about and that's being put forth as the American experience. Those values aren't particularly the same value.
I think to understand the context of the song Born in the USA as well, you need to understand how and when it was recorded. So it was written as part of a collection of songs that would be released as the album Nebraska. So in early 1982, Springsteen was demoing on a home 4-track recorder a bunch of quite dark songs that he was writing about the American experience. And he took those demos to the E Street Band to juice up to being full-blown rock songs. And the general consensus was that the demos were better, and they put them out as the album Nebraska. Born in the USA was one of the songs, though, that he did feel was working with the band, so he kind of stashed that away. And then after Nebraska came out and had done its run, he went back to the studio and started continuing recording, and one of those songs was Born in the USA. Here's the Nebraska version of Born in the USA. He was never on the album, but this is the version that was recorded. And just think about how different and how, I suppose, more clearly interpreted the song would have been if it had been released in this form.
The first kick I took was when I hit the ground. Like a dog, this must be too much. You spend half your life just covering up. Born in the USA. Born in the USA. Born in the USA. Born in the USA.
As opposed to, we're going to go back to 1988 here. Isn't that great? I'd say. You hear Clarence Clemens on the cowbell in the background there. It's got to be said as well, it's one of the all-time great concert openers too. Two chords, by the way, this song. E and B, I think. That's that crowd. I mentioned that there are a couple of reasons why I picked this performance. One is, I think the song itself has an interesting story. And although, you know, as I say, it's become very misinterpreted. And I think somewhat of a stone around Springsteen's neck, in the sense that that misinterpretation has meant that I think there are portions of his audience that maybe feel he's become too, quote, liberal in recent years. I don't understand how that they can feel that way. I mean, he did the No Nuke shows in the 70s. His politics, whilst never as explicit as they have been in recent years, always seemed fairly on the sleeve. I think as a fan of Springsteen, it's difficult because a lot of the time, particularly I think in the 90s, I think it's come back round again now. I think Springsteen's going through a bit of a phase now, like a lot of people like Neil Young and Tom Waits and people, and Johnny Cash, I guess maybe, where they get to a point where enough of the, you know, Arcade Fire's cite them as an influence that people start to see that again. But I think at the time there was a feeling that, you know, that if you mentioned you like Bruce Springsteen, somebody would sing Born in the USA in a gargling voice and do the fist pumping, you know. So it made it difficult to be a Springsteen fan in some ways. And I think time has been kind to it, because this performance now, I think everybody knows what the song's about. It's a great pop song, you know. Those things that did cause those misinterpretations, you know, the kind of the machine gun snare drum sound, the anthemic keyboards, the strained vocals, really are actually kind of wonderful. And I think that it's nice to come back to the song and go, actually, you know, this does really work. And when you remove it from the time and all of those things. The other reason I wanted to pick the song, this performance of the song, is the crowd. This crowd are insane. This was broadcast. I remember seeing this on TV. I'd just seen Springsteen a couple of months before on the main Tunnel of Love leg of his 88 tour. And it was one of the most incredible, formative musical experiences of my life. You know, still the greatest concert I've ever been to, because I was the right age, and you know, it really opened my eyes. So I was very excited when I saw that this was going to be on TV. They didn't broadcast the whole of the Springsteen set. They played 4 songs. I think they played Born in the USA. They played I'm on Fire. They played The River that he did as a duet with Sting. And they played, and I think they may have played 5. They played his cover of Raise Your Hand. And then they played Twist and Shout, which was what Springsteen had been closing all of his own shows with on recent tours. And that was everybody came on stage. I think apart from Tracy Chapman. I can't imagine Tracy Chapman singing Twist and Shout, to be fair. And that performance of Twist and Shout is incredible. It's like 25 minutes long or something, with a huge audience participation, loudest audience I think I've ever heard. It's people talk a lot about Queen at Live Aid, as they should. But I really think that performance of Twist and Shout, which is too long for me to cover on one of these shows, maybe I'll get to that at some point, but that really is one of those incredible performances. But you get a sense of that here on this one as well. The whole show is available out there on in the ether, shall we say. But it was broadcast on TV, and I just remember thinking, wow. But see for yourself. Keep watching. Also, the shows were shorter. He wasn't doing 4 hours, you know, he was doing an hour and a quarter, so he's at 11 for the whole time. I guess any concerns they had about the audience's familiarity with his material evaporated pretty quickly. Classic E Street Band lineup. Got Nils Lofgren there. No, not Little Steven, who'd left a couple of tours before. That's the for the future Mrs. Springsteen. The character in the song is not happy. Now this is interesting because the album version does feature a reprise, like they do here. There's no guitar solo. Bruce had been building and developing this sort of guitar, this grungy guitar solo over the end as the Tunnel of Love tour progressed. And I think that the performance of the full band version of this song kind of peaks at this point. It's never played as well afterwards. Here we go. Watch and listen to the crowd. And watch Bruce. Still gives me goosebumps. Look at that. To be in that. So this guitar. It's Neil Young style guitar. And this was 1988. This was the era of Motley Crue and Wiggle Wiggle. Nope. Still feeling this song. Here we go. Dodging projectiles. Playing his Fender Esquire. Played since he was 23. Great iconic guitars. You have it. First song of the set. Hard to follow. So, after this show, Bruce phoned the E Street Band and said, you know, that's it. We're done. I feel like I need to try new things. And those new things involved taking a few years off, starting a family, having kids, writing an album about becoming a father, you know, not really rock and roll material, but, you know, still some great work. And then he would then tour acoustically and really get back to being the singer-songwriter that John Hammond signed as the new Dylan in 1972, but instead got a more, I guess, Van Morrison-esque rock and roll singer-songwriter. And Springsteen, again, he always had a complicated relationship with this song afterwards. He would play it when he toured with the rock band that he toured with in the 90s, the non-E Street Band. And he would always introduce it, or often introduce it, with a cover of Jimi Hendrix's Star Spangled Banner, I think, hoping to contextualize it. And he sung it in a different vocal timbre, the verse as well, I think, forcing audiences to do two things, to maybe listen and notice the lyrics, and also not to sing along, so it didn't become this flag-waving, slightly almost fascistic kind of feeling thing. But eventually what Bruce would do is he'd return to the Nebraska version, really. I mean, he didn't play the full band version at all, I don't think, maybe once on the reunion tour in the late 90s. You know, his most famous song, arguably, really was largely absent. And when he did play it, it sounded like this. This is Madison Square Garden from 2000, I think, on the reunion tour. Almost an Eastern sound, which is very interesting contrast. Making the 12-string sound a bit like a sitar.
Bow down the dead man's town. First kick I took was when I hit the ground. You end up like a dog that's been beat too much. Do you spend half your life just to cover it up? I was born in the USA. I was born in the USA.
So no more misunderstanding what that song's about. So thank you for watching, and I'll be doing another one of these very, very soon. Quick reminder to please check out the Rewatch Project podcast with Hannah and Mike, and also check out the Pod Syndicate YouTube channel. I also do some stuff over there as well, and also Chinstroker versus Punter, the other podcast that I do, and we also have a YouTube channel for that. So check out all of those sort of things, and I will see you again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.